As anybody that knows me knows, I absolutely love music. So today I figured we'd go ahead and go over my top 10 favorite albums. Now I do have a lot of these on CD here, however there is a few that I have to buy yet. I did start recently collecting CDs again because I used to all the time as a teenager, fell off it for the last couple of years just for, one reason or another, but I have like my Amazon cart is getting fuller and fuller. I also have to stress that this is kind of a cheat list because there's going to be a few examples where I actually have a few favorite albums by a specific artist and it's really hard for me to choose, but you'll see how I handle that as we go on. So first things first, and this is all in no particular order by the way, so this is just kind of going through like my top 10. They're all on the same level for the most part, except for the final two albums, which are like my absolute favorite. But the first one here we have is Eminem, the Marshall Mathers LP. I feel like this goes without saying. When it came to thinking about my favorite Eminem album, it really came down to this, the Slim Shady or LP, or the Eminem Show, which I feel like is the case for a lot of people. But for me personally, I've just always adored the Marshall Mathers LP just because it's such a dark and gritty album, right? Opening the album with Kill You, and then going into Stan, which is not just one of Eminem's greatest songs of all time, but it's just also one of the best songs of all time, like between the storytelling, the instrumental, the hook. Just an amazing song. Then you got all the other classics on here, like, The Way I Am, The Real Slim Shady, and then you got some underrated tracks. Like, I feel like Under the Influence by D12 is a rather underrated song, at least in the grand scheme of things. I don't know, I always really loved that song. I thought the hook was really goofy, and me and my friends used to always hit the rap in it. Anytime that I've introduced people to Eminem in the past, I've always pointed them towards the Marshall Mathers LP. If it's like, if you want to know what Eminem is about, and if you want to know what his music is like, and see both sides of it, Marshall Mathers and Slim Shady, the Marshall Mathers LP is definitely, like, in my opinion, the most, just like the most Eminem album, if that makes sense. I do have to say, though, if anybody's curious as to, like, what my other favorite Eminem albums would be besides, like, the Slim Shady LP and the Eminem Show, Recovery would also be one of my favorites. I've listened to that album from front to back so many times. I love Recovery so much. Next up, we have our first cheat, because it was hard for me to pick one. So here's the thing. If I had to pick the one that I've listened to the most, it would be Linkin Park Hybrid Theory. But if I had to pick the one where I'm like, but there's more songs on this one that speak to me just a bit more, it would have to be Meteora. And unfortunately, I also don't have From Zero on CD yet, and I know this is going to be kind of controversial for me to say just because, it's a new singer and just everything that happened with Linkin Park, but From Zero would also be up here with my favorite Linkin Park albums in this, like, trilogy here. It's just really hard for me to pick a favorite between these three because they're all great in their own ways. So, I mean, I'll talk about each one individually. We'll kind of go in order here. So, Hybrid Theory, Linkin Park's first album. This is the one that I've listened to the most. This one got me through all of the bad times in middle school and high school, opening up with Paper Cut and then going into One Step Closer. And, like, literally the entire track list is just full of, like, classic Linkin Park songs. Paper Cut, One Step Closer, With You, Points of Authority, Crawling, Runaway, By Myself, In the End, A Place for My Head, Forgotten. Cure for the Itch is less of like a classic because it's just one of those more like ambient Linkin Park songs, but it's still just like a really good song anyway. And then Pushing Me Away, which has always been one of my favorite Linkin Park songs. This album is literally perfect. And then we go to Meteora. We got Forward, which is just like an intro, and then Don't Stay, Somewhere I Belong, Lying From You, Hit the Floor, Easier to Run, Faint, Figure.09, Breaking the Habit, From the Inside, Nobody's Listening, Session, and Session is another one of those ambient tracks, and then, closes out with Numb. And once again, Meteora is just such an amazing album, and while yes, I've listened to Hybrid Theory more, and I know this album word for word from front to back, I do find that Meteora speaks to me just a little bit more on that personal level of, like, just when it comes to, like, depression and just other mental disorders in general, and just, like, where I've been at any point in my life, Meteora always just gets me, you know what I mean? And similarly, that is also why From Zero is another album that is up here with Meteora and Hybrid Theory as my third favorite Linkin Park album. Again, it's really hard for me to rank them in terms of, like, which one's my favorite. I mean, if I really had to rank them, it might go, like, Meteora, and then From Zero, and then, like, Hybrid Theory, but I don't know, it just really depends on the day, you know what I mean? But From Zero is a record that I literally listen to from front to back almost on a daily basis. I love that album so much, whether we're talking about, like, I can literally name off, like, the entire track list, I'm pretty sure, right? We got, like, The Emptiness Machine, which then goes into Cut the Bridge, Heavy is the Crown, then I want to say it goes into, like, Casualty, and then it's like Over Each Other, and then Casualty, and then Overflow, and then somewhere in there is like I Gave You Everything I Have, and then Stained, and then Good Things Go. I might have missed a song or two in there, but I'm pretty sure that's the whole track list. Good Things Go is already one of my go-to cry songs, just because it It's just very relevant to me. So, you know, like that's just already one of my favorite Linkin Park songs. The Emptiness Machine was an instant classic the moment it was released, and then like Heavy is the Crown, that's basically Emily's version of the Given Up screen, going on for like what, a good like 15, 17 seconds, something like that. She's already done it live multiple times. She's a fantastic singer. I can't wait to get my hands on that CD. I'm gonna try to get the deluxe edition as well, because the deluxe edition had, you know, added 3 new amazing songs. We got Up From the Bottom, and then Unshatter, and then Let You Fade, which is a heartbreaking song. So I really want to get my hands on the deluxe edition just so I have all that there. But yeah, Linkin Park is one of my top 5 favorite bands. Love them so much. Next up, we're gonna go ahead and do another cheat one. So that is Seether Disclaimer, Seether Disclaimer 2, and then Seether Karma and Effect. If I had to choose between Disclaimer and Disclaimer 2, I'd go Disclaimer 2, simply because Disclaimer 2 is literally Disclaimer, but extra songs. It's like a deluxe edition with a different name. It's literally the same songs, just more. So yeah, you got that, but then you got Karma and Effect. If I had to pick a favorite, I would probably say Karma and Effect, but you know, that's if I was like forced to choose a favorite. But Disclaimer is one that I've ended up listening to it more, because Karma and Effect is one that speaks to me on such a deep level that I have to be careful how often I listen to it, because it really gets me in a place that I don't necessarily always want to be in, just because it really speaks to me like on that level. Like, it's a record that really hits me just that deep. Like, if I listen to it, I basically need to be prepared to cry. Whereas with Disclaimer, yes, I do find myself getting rather emotional to this album, and Disclaimer 2 as well. But, you know, especially for this first one, Disclaimer, where it's just like the first 12 songs, right? Gasoline, 69T, Fine Again, Needles, Driven Under, Pride, Sympathetic, You're Bored, Fade Away, Pig, Fuck It, and Broken. You know, this is one of those records similar to Hybrid Theory where I know the entire album from front to back. You can pop it in, I can sing along to all the words, and again, it's similar to Karma and Effect. While yes, this speaks to me on that deep level, it's one where it's just light enough to keep me to get to that boiling point. Seether has always been one of my favorite bands though, and it's really cool because in the first Disclaimer you had the original version of Broken in here before they did the version with Amy Lee, which I love that version as well, but you know, it's just cool hearing the difference between this one, which was a bit more stripped back, raw, a bit more acoustic, and then the one with Amy Lee from Evanescence, which is a bit more fantastical and rock driven. Seether's new album is really good too. There's some instant classics on there like Judas Mine, Walls Come Down, Lost All Control. Absolutely love that album, so good. Next up, I guess we'll go ahead and talk about the 2 albums that I actually don't have yet, but I do plan to buy with my next haul that I was talking about. The first one being Metallica Black. I mean, I know this is going to be controversial, and look, I'm a all-around Metallica fan. You know, you got some that are like, okay, they only like, you know, the era of like Whiplash and Seek and Destroy, or their other albums of the day, like, you know, they're the like Master of Puppets, which had Master of Puppets and Battery and Sanitarium, and their other songs like One and For Whom the Bell Tolls, Ride the Lightning, Fade to Black, and all that. And I will say my favorite Metallica song is actually Fade to Black. It depends on the day. Fade to Black, One, it just, you know, really depends on the day. One's an absolute classic, but Fade to Black really gets me. But yeah, you know, I'm just an all-around Metallica fan. I like their new stuff like 72 Seasons, like Hardwired to Self-Destruct. I like the Load and Reload era. I even like the Saint Anger album. I always thought that opening to Frantic with like the snares just going boom, boom, boom. Dude, it's so gnarly. Frantic, tick, 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 tock. But I love Metallica Black because I feel like it's the best of both worlds. You have some of those slightly heavier cuts on there, like you know, the riff and the drums and everything, like Sad But True. While sure, it's not hitting like Whiplash or Seek and Destroy levels, it's just pure like pure thrash. You know, it still has like a really nice rhythm to it, and you know, that album's just full of classics. Nothing else matters. The Unforgiven, Sad But True, the Wherever I May Roam, Enter Sandman, like the list goes on and on. That album is full of classics from front to back, and I've always just absolutely loved that album. Again, I just love everything Metallica, both new and old, and everything in between in that questionable area between like the Load to Reload era through Saint Anger, Death Magnetic, all the way up to like Hardwired to Self-Destruct, where they kind of started to, you know, figure out what they really wanted to do again. Like, you know, there were some really good songs on there, like Atlas Rise, Moth into Flame, and then especially the opening track, Hardwired to Self-Destruct, like that galloping sound. We're so fucked, shit out of luck, hardwired to self-destruct, go, dude, like that song is so sick. And then their most recent album, obviously 72 Seasons, which has tracks like, you know, the opener track, 72 Seasons, and then Lux Eterna, and If Darkness Had a Sun. Dude, that opening is so sick, the way it just builds up slowly. Temptation, dude, it's so sick. For my next favorite album, this is another one that's going to be pretty controversial. That is Stain's self-titled record. Yes, I know people are going to be looking at like the Tormented or Dysfunction era, or even like Break the Cycle, which was, you know, their commercial breakout album per se, with like It's Been a While and Outside and For You and Fade and Epiphany. And then you even got some of the albums after that, which had like, you know, like Right Here and Everything Changes and Failing or Falling or whatever was a pretty big song as well. And then you had some of the other hits that they had on later in the 2000s. But for me, their self-titled record is one where it's always spoken to me, right? Like, not only the record itself, but also watching like the documentary of it and just seeing how it was made. I always am of the belief that when an artist is tortured or they're aggravated or everything is going wrong, that's when you're gonna get their best work. And it's hard for me to say that their self-titled record is their best work, but it's definitely their most boiling point, boiling over, honest work of like, we are humans that have had too much shit to deal with, and we are just done. Like, you see it in the documentary, everybody's fed up, nobody even wants to be making the music anymore, and it's just pure, like, just emotions on the page. Like, it is what it is. I mean, just running through the track list real quick, like, Eyes Wide Open is an instant classic right there. Not Again, fantastic song. And Failing, oh my gosh, that song has always gotten to me. I love the verses where it's like, yeah, like the dark, yeah, you know, like, you know how that thing goes. And then the hook, I've always loved the way that it's like, it still has that stained energy, but it's still like a bit slow. It's like, and I'm just trying to get through to you. I can't sing right now. I haven't warmed up. It's like 7 in the morning and I don't have pitch reference. I need pitch reference to sing well. I can't hold a key on my own, but you know what I'm saying. Like, that hook is really good. And then like closing the album on Something to Remind You, the one that goes like, and when the day comes and the sun won't touch my face, tell the ones who care enough that I finally left this place that's been so cold. Look at my face, all the stories it will tell I can't erase. Then all it goes on from there. Oh, like, I love that song so much. Then you got some other cuts on here that are just straight up like heavy or different. You got Wannabe, which is like a Limp Bizkit style rap song from Stain. Like, what is it that you do? I can't even repeat the lyrics because they're so like just raunchy and degenerate. But, you know, and then the hook, like, you're nothing but a wannabe, like, that's so good. And then Paper Wings, that's one of those songs where I actually prefer the live version of it because it just sounds so much heavier in my opinion. Like, in the original record, he's just like, burn your paper wings and say goodbye, and then he like distorts it, you know, like activates his false chords right there. But instead, in like the live version, he's just like, burn your fucking wings and say goodbye. Like, he just leans into it, and it's so gnarly. I don't even know if I can get like as low as he does. Hold on, let me warm up for a sec. Yeah, like, I can't go as low as he does, bro. He goes guttural with it. Next up, we have Korn, Life is Peachy, and I know this one's gonna be like, hold on, you're picking Life is Peachy over Self-Titled, over Follow the Leader, even Issues, or like, you know, the Nothing, like even their new stuff, like, yeah. Life is Peachy. I love this album so much because for me, an album isn't just about the singles or one song. An album for me is about the entire experience. When I listen to music, I don't just put on a playlist and listen on shuffle. Sometimes I do that, but for the most part, I don't. I like listening to entire albums to get the experience of what that artist was trying to convey, not just with one piece, but with the entire album and the mood and the state that they were in. Because to really... I feel like albums best reflect where an artist is at in a certain point in their life, because while yes, you can put out a pop song like it's nothing, or put out like, you know, one song or one single or another, and it's just like, okay, we just wanted to make the song. But when you listen to an album, it really reflects where that artist is at that point, creatively, and just, you know, just for them as a person. And Korn, Life is Peachy is like the perfect culmination of where Korn was at in the mid-90s. Hocked up on all sorts of drugs, banging all sorts of hookers, absolutely losing their minds, you know, like, I mean, where do I even start with the track list on this thing? Opening with Twist, which is obviously just, you know, just Jonathan Davis scatting for like a minute. Then you got Good God, which is honestly my favorite song off this record, just because of that breakdown alone. The entire song is great, but that breakdown, would you get the fuck out of my face? No! It just slowly builds up, then he just explodes, and it is honestly, out of any time that I've heard Jonathan Davis scream before, that is my favorite. That song has my favorite Jonathan Davis scream on it. It is so raw, it is so gritty, and it's like, This man is breaking, and I love that. I love listening to music where you can hear the artist just breaking. And where else do we even go with the track list on this thing? I mean, we got Adidas, which is obviously like, all day I dream about sex. I screwed up the melody there, but you know, I've never been able to look at the shoe brand the same. And then closing on Kill You, which has always been, you know, just like another one of my favorite Korn songs. And I always loved it because if you pop in the CD and you wait until the song's over and you like stay through the silence, you can hear Jonathan Davis recording Twist, just vocals only, like them doing a demo of it before it like loops back around if you play the CD again to start over on Twist. I've always loved that. But Life is Peachy will always be my favorite Korn album, not just because of one particular song, but because of the entire record, which is actually relevant to the next CD we're going to be talking about. It is just so raw, and I love it. Next up, we have Avenged Sevenfold Nightmare, which, very similar to Korn Life is Peachy, this album is not just about one song on the record. Like, it's not just one or two songs that make the entire album for me. It's the entire album experience in general, right? Opening up on Nightmare, the self-titled track, Welcome to the Family, Danger Line, Buried Alive, Natural Born Killer, So Far Away, God Hates Us, Victim, Tonight the World Dies, Fiction, and then Save Me. It's literally just banger after banger, just non-stop hits on this thing. I mean, Nightmare is like easily their biggest or one of their biggest songs, and for those that don't know, they recorded and released this album after their drummer, The Rev, unfortunately passed away. Rest in peace. So as the album name suggests, yeah, the band was quite literally living through a nightmare at the time. But I've always loved this album because you can really feel the pain in everything, in the instrumentals, in the drum playing, in the vocals. You can just feel the pain. You can feel that something's missing, and yet how do I say this without being insensitive? Sometimes when something is missing, that is what leads a band or an artist to push themselves into a space where their sound sounds even fuller than ever. And I'm not, like, don't get it twisted, you know, don't twist my words. I'm not trying to say that loss is necessary in order to sound better, or that loss is a good thing, because it is absolutely not. Loss is never a good thing. But it's not about loss itself, but rather what you do with said loss, right? It's one of those things before where I've said you can't necessarily always control the hand that life is going to give you. Like let's say life is a card game, right? Like you can't always, you can never control the cards that life is going to hand you. You can only control what you do with it and how you play those cards. And that's exactly what Avenged Sevenfold Nightmare is. They could have easily just broken up, and that, you know, that could have been it. That could have just been the end for Avenged Sevenfold if they really let the loss get to them. But instead, they decided to bunker down and make one of, if not, in my opinion, their best albums to date, and in my opinion, is one of the best metal albums ever made. I love this album so much. And if you haven't listened to it before, Avenged Sevenfold Nightmare, I highly recommend listening to it. It's full of, you know, hits, you know, the classics like Nightmare, Welcome to the Family, like I mentioned before, but it's also full of a lot of deeper cuts, like the whole back half of the album, like Victim, Tonight the World Dies, Fiction, and Save Me. I feel like are a lot of Avenged Sevenfold's deeper cuts, and it's a really good album through and through. I highly recommend it. Next up, we actually have another one that I don't have yet, but is yet another one that I'm going to be buying in my next haul of CDs. I actually already have it in my cart along with the Stained and Metallica Black album. And this one's going to throw everybody off, because so far I've been talking about old school rap with like Eminem and a lot of metal and metalcore, and, you know, whatever you want to call it. There's so many different subgenres of metal. You got like metalcore, death metal, thrash metal. I don't care. If there's guitars and there's, you know, vocals and drums and bass, I'm just probably gonna call it metal or rock or something like that. Anyway, Billie Eilish hit me hard and soft. I know. I know that's like crazy coming off the back end of like this, but hear me out. I've been listening to Billie Eilish on and off since like 2018, somewhere in there, about 2018, yeah. And, you know, I've always really loved her music. I actually fell off for a couple of years. I listened to her When We All Fall Asleep, Where Do We Go album, and for some reason that was just like the last thing I heard from her for a while. And then recently I went back and listened to Happier Than Ever and Hit Me Hard and Soft, and I gotta say, as much as I love Happier Than Ever, that album's really good. There's actually like almost that whole album, almost all the songs on that album actually genuinely fuck me up like pretty bad, bro. I had Male Fantasy on loop like 2 weeks ago for like 2 hours straight. I was bawling my eyes out. I'm not even gonna lie to y'all. But when I think of the entire album experience, when you pop in the album and you listen to it from start to finish, I feel like between like all of her albums so far, and you know, I know she only has 3, but if I had to pick just one, I would say Hit Me Hard and Soft is the one where when I listen to it from start to finish, that's the one where it's just like, if I had to pick just one, that's the one that I gravitate to. And I don't know why. Happier Than Ever is a really great album as well, but there's just something about Hit Me Hard and Soft. Maybe it's because it's just so different from anything that she's made before, or maybe because it's just so real. Like, her music has always been real, but there's just something about it where it just feels more, I guess, like, matured or more developmental and experimental in its sound. Like, there's a lot of different things on here that she hasn't really done before, like, for example, the song Chihiro, or however you're supposed to say it. You know, I really love the instrumental and the way she, like, played with her vocals in that song. And then you got a lot of the almost like 2010s electronic sounding stuff all throughout the album. I absolutely love that. And I mean, almost basically every song on this album besides Lunch screws me up, because Lunch is just like, you know, one of those like pop songs. It's like, you know, I can eat that girl for lunch and she dances on my tongue. Like, I'm not gonna start reciting those lyrics here, but like every other song on the album, right, you got like Wildflower and The Greatest, and then that one like French song that I have no idea how to say, and then The Diner, Bittersweet, and Blue, and all that. Like, I love every song on this album, and I love how conceptual the album is. It takes me back to like the 2000s, or even partway through the 2010s, or especially like the 90s and whatnot, where you had a lot of these concept albums. Like Marilyn Manson, which we're actually gonna be getting to next, is the master of concept albums, right, with like Antichrist Superstar and Mechanical Animals and Hollywood and all that. And, you know, while sure Hit Me Hard and Soft isn't technically a concept album, at least not to my knowledge, there is a lot of that where you hear certain violin bits or certain instrumental bits in one song that comes up later in the album, or references back to something earlier in the album, you know what I mean? So I just love how connected all of it is. I love how when you listen to the album, it just feels like one complete experience from beginning to end, and I love how much it fucks me up. Excuse my language, but I love music that fucks me up, and Hit Me Hard and Soft is an album that fucks me up every time, so it has earned its place, rightfully so, in my top 10 favorite albums of all time, and I cannot wait to hear what she puts out next. Next up, we have my next cheat entry, those being Marilyn Manson Hollywood, my hair's going weird, Marilyn Manson Hollywood, Heaven Upside Down, as well as The High End of Low. I know. Just hit you guys with a whole bombard of every Manson era, basically. You got some of the earlier stuff like Hollywood, which is not early Manson, because that obviously would have been like, you know, like Portrait of American Family, Antichrist Superstar, the Smells Like Children EP, Mechanical Animals, and all that. But for me, you know, I mean, like, Hollywood is still pretty early, before the golden age of grotesque era, because I feel like after golden age, that's like, you know, everything from that album onwards is like, you got to like, I don't even know how to explain it. There's like 3 eras of Manson. You got early Manson, which is like Hollywood and back, golden age of grotesque up to like Born Villain-ish around there, maybe just High End of Low, somewhere in there where you had that like depressed, confused, drugged out Manson, and then everything from like Born Villain-ish, but more like Pale Emperor, I want to say, like, not really Born Villain, yeah, more like Pale Emperor onwards, you got New Manson, you know what I mean? But Hollywood is a masterpiece of an album. This is one of those albums where you have to pop it in and just listen to it from beginning to end to really experience Hollywood and really experience everything that this album has to offer, whether we're talking about the emotions, the lyrics, the themes, just the feeling of the album. Because as I was saying before with like albums like Hit Me Hard and Soft or Life is Peachy or Nightmare, this is an album where you really just need to sit down and be ready to take in the entire album, because again, it is a concept album, so it is really it's kind of part of the experience to just listen to it from beginning to end and just really absorb everything that the album is putting down. It's like, this is what I have to say, and you're gonna listen to it whether you like it or not. See, when I put this coat and hat on, it was actually a little bit chilly back here, but since it's Florida, you know, I've only been recording for about 30 minutes and it's already pushing 90 degrees, so give me a minute to de-dress a little bit. Holy crap. There we go, got my emo hair out. I'm trying to grow my hair out again, wanna, you know, dye it here in a bit. Gonna go red on the top. Oh shoot, I just spoiled that. I wasn't supposed to say that. Whoops. Well, if you watch this far in the video, now you know. Anyway, yeah, Hollywood, I mean, where do we even start with the track list, right? God Eat God, which is just a really cool opener. And then the love song, the fight song, Disposable Teens, and the track list just goes on from there. If I had to pick some of my favorite cuts, this is gonna be like really depressing, but In the Shadow of the Valley of Death is honestly probably one of my favorite songs off the record. The Nobodies. Coma Black is a song that messes me up every time I hear it. This was never my world, you took the angel away. I'd kill myself to make everybody pay. Like, dude, that song just, oh my god, it cuts so deep, man. And that's a song that got me through a lot of stuff. Like, I'm not gonna go too deep into it, but oh my gosh, you can, I mean, you know, you listen to the lyrics, you already like know how that goes. And then yeah, like In the Shadow of Valley of Death, like that's another one that messes me up, like the part where it goes like, sometimes I feel so worthless, sometimes I feel discarded, I wish that I was good enough, then I know that I am not alone. Like, oh my god, dude, that whole song just hits like a freight train. But the whole album obviously isn't just sad, because you have a lot of the heavy hitters, like I mentioned before, with like Disposable Teens and Fight Song and Burning Flag, which is one of Manson's heaviest songs, man. The screams on that song, like, you're burning flag, like, just full fry, absolutely gnarly. But then moving up a bit to The Hind of Low. Yeah, this is, I like, all of my favorite Manson albums are from each of the different eras, and The Hind of Low is an album that has always spoken to me. But man, where do I even begin to talk about The Hind of Low? I mean, we'll start with the first song in the album, which is my favorite song from the album, that being Devour. The hook on, like, that song, I love the way that it slowly builds up to the classic Manson stuff, right? Because you got the hook where it's like, and I'll love you if you let me, and I'll love you if you won't make me starve. And then it, like, you know, it kind of like builds up with the verses and everything until you get to that point where it finally breaks down, and he screams like, my pain's not ashamed to repeat myself, and then, you know, I can't sleep until I devour you. Love that song so much. And then the rest of the album is just freaking fantastic, right? Like, you have some of those deeper cuts, like Running to the Edge of the World, or 15, which honestly, 15, the alternate version of it, the acoustic version, I love that one so much. Running to the Edge of the World, I think I already talked about. Leave a Scar, Armageddon motherfucking Geddon, love that song so much. And then Pretty as a Dollar Sign. That song's crazy. If you know, you know, because the original title wasn't supposed to be Dollar Sign, it was supposed to be something else. Let me show you where it hurts. Like, oh my god, that song hits like a truck as well. Love that song so much. But that whole album's just fantastic, and it's one of those albums that, again, has got me through a lot of stuff, and it's definitely one of the deeper cuts in Manson's discography. Not as well known as the other albums, but one where if you're a true hardcore fan of Manson, or at least a true fan of the album, then, you know, you get it. Especially if you've been through some shit like me, or if you're just kind of fucked in the head like me. And finally, Heaven Upside Down, which is one of Manson's more upbeat albums, I would say. It's not as dark as a lot of the other ones. I will say there's one song on here called Blood Honey that really messes me up every time I listen to it, but for the most part, you know, it's basically just like, you know, a pretty rockin' Manson album. I don't know how else to put it. You have some heavier songs, but you also have some more jazzy, dancey songs. They're not necessarily jazzy, but I don't know how the hell else to describe them. You know, you got like Heaven Upside Down and Threats of Romance, especially Heaven Upside Down, where it's like, hold my hand and spin around, this is heaven upside down. Like, it's just, you know, different from something that you would have gotten during the Hollywood era. But the one song that I was talking about, Blood Honey, that song just always messes me up. There's something about the instrumental, the chord progression, the lyrics, especially the part where it's like, you only want me when I'm upside down. Like, yeah, I feel that. And I love the way that the album ends, how he screams, I like you damaged, but he does it like, you know, he screams it like 8 or 10 different times, and then it just ends with like no instrumental. It's just him screaming and shredding his vocal cords until it finally goes silent and the album ends. Like, I absolutely love that. This is an album where, again, there's only 10 tracks on it, but I can pop it in, listen to it from front to finish. I know all the lyrics to all the songs. I know every beat, every instrumental, every guitar note, every key. I know this album like the back of my hand. I love it so much, and it came out at a time when I really needed it, and it's just always been there for me. This is one that I've been listening to almost daily again lately, just because I love it so much. And yeah, Heaven Upside Down, I feel like in the grand scheme of Manson albums, is another one that doesn't get appreciated as much as it probably should, but I love this album so much. And then finally, these last two go without saying, man. Slipknot self-titled and Slipknot Iowa. I mean, honestly, if I could, I would put every... You know what? No, we're gonna do it. Give me a sec. And finally, we have every single Slipknot album. Yep, that's it. Because, like, I can't just pick one Like, if I had to pick one where it's like, okay, that's my absolute favorite, probably, like, Iowa. You know, like, Iowa and self-titled, I'd probably pick, like, Iowa, and then, you know, it's like, those are, like, my most two. Like, when I think of Slipknot, like, these are the two that, like, come to mind, but it's like... But no, because I need the rest of their discography. I need Blister Exists, and Duality, and Before I Forget, and Vermilion Part 2. I cry to that song, like, almost every day. And Snuff. I cry to that song every day too. And Dead Memories, I cry to that song every day too. And Psychosocial, and Sulfur, and Gematria, and All Hope Is Gone, and even a lot of the other songs on here, like This Cold Black. I love that opening where it's like, welcome home, and then it just like goes into like all these like guitars and drums and shit. Love that album so much. The Gray Chapter. Where do I begin with this one? It came out after, like, similar to Avenged Sevenfold. Paul Gray, their bassist, unfortunately died shortly after the All Hope Is Gone release. And this album is called .5 The Gray Chapter, you know, like named after Paul Gray, the Gray Chapter. And, you know, you can feel all of the grief in this album, whether, you know, we're talking about the opening XIX, where You just feel Corey, like he's not even singing the way he usually does. Like he's not, you know, he's not singing all pretty like he does on like Vermilion Part 2, for example. No, he's just bleeding through the verses, and you can just really feel every ounce of his pain on this song. But then like the rest of the songs of the album, man, Sarcastrophe, AOV, Devil and I, Kill Pop, Going On Later, like Custer, The Negative One. Dude, this this album is so good. Like Custer, come on. I literally post that song on my Instagram story like so often, like live performances of it and just other like funny memes of it. Cause that hook, dude, cut me up and fuck me up, dude. That shit goes so hard. And then We Are Not Your Kind. The first single for this album being Unsainted. Perfect choice. Oh, I'll never kill myself to save my soul. I can't sing as high as Corey, so I'm not even gonna try it. I mean, that's a lie. I can sing Snuff if I have pitch reference. I can do like part of it. I kind of struggle in the first verse, but that first part was like, bury all your secrets in my skin. I can like do that part, but like everything, Corey has a crazy range. He has the lowest of lows and the highest of highs. He has like the highest vocal range in metal. But this album's full of hits as well. You got Unsainted, Birth of the Cruel, Nero Forte, A Liar's Funeral is a really good song. I haven't listened to that one in a bit, but yeah, that one's really good. Orphan is another underrated hit off this album. Solway Firth. I've always loved that final line where it's like, you want the real smile? I haven't smiled in years. Like, oh my God, that just hits home, you know what I mean? And then their most recent album, Slipknot, the end so far. I mean, this one is also full of hits, right? Adderall, even though it's very different from what you typically expect from Slipknot, love that song to death. The Dying Song, the Chapeltown Rag, Yen, Hive Mind, H377, like there's just so many amazing songs on this record from start to finish. I love not just every single Slipknot album, but every single Slipknot song, like genuinely. So if I had to pick an absolute favorite Slipknot album, I'd probably say Iowa, but again, that's if it was like gun to my head, you have to choose. Otherwise, though, it's every Slipknot album. Hold on, let me get them all in order here. All Hope Is Gone, then Great Chapter, We Are Not Your Kind, and so far, it's every Slipknot album. These are my favorite albums of all time. And I know there's gonna be those people like, wait, but what about Mate, Feed, Kill, Repeat? That's not an actual studio album. It was just like a demo tape thing. Yes, it's technically an album, but it's not like, you know, like one of these, you know, like Roadrunner mainline 7 Slipknot albums. But now I'd love to hear from you guys. Are any of these albums in your top 10 favorite albums of all time, or any of the other albums that I don't happen to have on hand at the moment that I talked about, or any of those in your top 10 of all time, or is it something else completely? Whatever it is, I would love to hear from you guys. But anyways, always massive shout out to all the Patrons and channel members to get all you in the low ball tier and an e-bridge something with Baltimore asking and be dead many of the channel and DJ Run of a solo cheese. Thank you guys so much, guys. Are Little Legends. I love you. Good on Doki, arigatou gozaimasu. Have an amazing day. Stay beautiful. I love you all. Peace.